What happens when a self-made CEO walks into one of his own stores undercover and finds a cashier crying behind the counter, but what follows is even worse. Owen stood in the back of a delivery van, pulling a faded navy cap lower over his brow. His beard was grown out, his hair dyed a dull brown and tucked under the cap, and thick-rimmed glasses sat on his nose. No one would have guessed he was the man behind the 20-store fast casual chain now spread across 3 states. He built the company from scratch 10 years ago, flipping burgers and sweeping floors himself. But lately, things felt off. Complaints had trickled in, orders wrong, service slow, staff turnover too high. Isaiah didn't trust reports anymore. He needed to see it for himself. This morning, he was assigned as a trainee at Store 17, a busy location in a mid-sized city. He'd never met the staff there personally. With over 300 employees across the company, it wasn't possible anymore. That's what worried him. He stepped through the rear door holding a beat-up duffel bag. A tall man with slicked-back hair and a clipboard glanced up. "You the new guy?" the man asked without looking twice. "You're late." Yeah, sorry," Isaiah said, keeping his voice lower than usual. "I'm Carl, I manage this place." "You'll be shadowing today, mostly register and front line. Don't screw anything up." Isaiah nodded. The store was clean but tense. The kitchen staff moved quickly, no joking, no music. The front counter had 2 registers open. A young woman with tightly braided hair and tired eyes stood at one of them, her shoulders hunched. "That's Tegan," Carl said. "She's been here too long. Don't follow her example." Isaiah frowned but said nothing. He was paired with Tegan. She gave him a soft, uncertain smile and handed him a headset. "Don't worry," she said. "It's not hard, just takes practice." She was kind, patient. She walked him through how to clock in, how to take an order, how to handle a refund. But Isaiah noticed how Carl kept hovering, watching her. Never at ease. About an hour in, right after the lunch rush started, Isaiah returned from stocking napkins in the lobby and found Tegan at the register, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. "You okay?" he asked. She sniffed and nodded. "Yeah. Just allergies." But he saw the redness in her eyes. She wasn't fine. She looked like someone who'd been holding it together too long. Before he could ask again, Carl's voice cut through the headset. "Tegan, office, now." She flinched. Isaiah watched her walk slowly toward the back, her head low. Carl passed right by him, not even noticing the new trainee's narrowed eyes. Isaiah waited. 10 minutes. 15. Then he heard raised voices through the thin wall by the kitchen. "I told you to stop giving customers extra sauces without charging." "That's theft, Tegan." "No one ever complains. I don't care. You're not paid to make friends. You're paid to follow rules." Silence. Then a muffled sob. Isaiah's stomach twisted. Carl came out of the office a minute later, straightened his shirt, and walked up to Isaiah. "Your trainer's taking a break. You're on your own for now." "Got it," Isaiah said, jaw tight. Another cashier, a guy named Milo, leaned over and whispered, "Don't worry. Tegan always gets it. She's the only one who doesn't suck up to him." Isaiah nodded slowly. "Does this happen a lot?" Milo glanced around, lowered his voice. "Almost daily. She just doesn't quit, not sure why." At the end of the shift, Tegan returned, quieter than before. She handed her headset to Carl and signed out without a word. Isaiah followed her out the door. "Hey," he said. "I'm Ian, by the way, first day, you okay?" She looked at him, eyes tired but kind. "Yeah, just used to it." "Why stay?" She hesitated. "My little girl. I can't afford to miss a paycheck." Isaiah stood still as she walked off toward a nearby bus stop. He didn't move until she disappeared down the sidewalk. He turned back toward the store, his mind spinning. He expected some tough conditions, maybe some laziness. But what he saw wasn't just bad management. It was someone good being broken down slowly, regularly. Tomorrow, he'd dig deeper. But tonight, Isaiah Owen sat in his car with the engine off for a long time, realizing he'd lost sight of what his company had become. Isaiah arrived 20 minutes early the next morning, opting to enter through the front this time. He wanted to see how the team handled prep and opening without the pressure of a lunch rush. The dining area was half-lit, chairs still stacked on tables. Behind the counter, Milo was already pulling bins of sliced produce from the walk-in fridge, moving with a kind of quiet rhythm that suggested he'd done this alone more than once. Carl wasn't in yet. Isaiah stepped behind the counter and offered a quick nod to Milo. "You open by yourself?" he asked. Milo glanced up from the cutting board, surprised. "Usually, manager's not here until right before doors open. Tegan's always second in, but she's off today." Isaiah pretended to fumble with his apron. "That seems tight." "Doesn't anyone else help?" Milo wiped his hands on his apron. "We're supposed to have a third opener, but Carl keeps cutting hours to stay under labor targets, says if we just move faster, we won't need more people." Isaiah didn't respond. He helped Milo unstack the chairs and refill the soda machines. By the time the first customer walked in, the lights were fully on, and the music had started a low, generic playlist that did nothing to lift the atmosphere. The morning was slow. A few regulars filtered in, mostly construction workers and delivery drivers. Isaiah took orders while Milo handled the grill. A woman came in with her son, and Isaiah noticed the boy pointing excitedly at the menu board. "He likes the fruit cups," she said. "Thinks they're a treat." Isaiah smiled and rang up the order. "Fruit cups are out," Milo called from the back. Isaiah checked the fridge. "Empty. Do we have more in the walk-in?" Milo shook his head. "We haven't gotten any in the last 3 deliveries. Carl says produce margins are too thin." "They're not officially off the menu yet, but he told us to stop offering them." Isaiah looked back at the boy, who was now tugging on his mother's sleeve. "I'll find something for him," the mother said quickly, clearly trying to avoid making a scene. Isaiah added a small fries to the order and comped it without hesitation. Milo noticed, but said nothing. The lunch rush hit harder than the day before. Without Tegan, Isaiah split register duty with a new hire named Nessa, who looked barely 18 and overwhelmed by the endless line. Carl arrived half an hour after the rush began, barking orders as he walked through the door. "Why are we down a register?" he asked, not stopping to greet anyone. "Nessa's still training." "I'm helping cover," Isaiah offered. Carl narrowed his eyes. "You're not fast enough to be on main register yet. Get in the back and stock lids or something." Isaiah held his tongue and stepped aside. He moved to the dry storage room but paused near the office door, which was slightly ajar. Inside, Carl had his phone on speaker while scrolling through a spreadsheet. "I told you we cut another 10 hours this week. Don't care if they complain. If corporate wants to see stronger margins, this is how we do it." A voice crackled on the other end. "And if turnover spikes again," Carl scoffed. "Doesn't matter. They're all replaceable." Isaiah stood frozen. Not because he hadn't heard things like this before in reports, but because hearing it spoken so casually, so confidently, made it real in a way numbers never could. He returned to the front and found Nessa trying to explain a refund policy to an older man who was growing increasingly impatient. She stumbled through the words, clearly unsure. Carl came up behind her, took over the screen, and processed the refund without looking at her. "She's not ready for the floor," he muttered to Isaiah. "Should have never hired her." Nessa looked down at her shoes, her face flushed. "We've all had a first week," Isaiah said without thinking. Carl turned to him. "Did I ask for your opinion?" Isaiah stared back, jaw tight. "No, good." "Then don't give it." By the end of the shift, Nessa had asked to leave early. Carl approved it with a wave of his hand. She walked out without saying goodbye. Isaiah stayed behind and helped Milo wipe down the counters. The mood was heavy. "You've been here long?" Isaiah asked. "Almost a year." "That's longer than most places these days," Milo shrugged. "I like the work, and it pays better than anything else I've found, but honestly, it's been worse since Carl took over. People leave every few weeks now." Isaiah leaned on the counter. "What about HR?" "Anyone ever report him?" Milo laughed once bitterly. "We don't have a real HR, just a hotline. Carl knows how to keep things just this side of fireable, plus he's tight with the district manager." Isaiah nodded slowly, piecing things together. That night, he reviewed the store's internal feedback logs from his motel room. Anonymous comments from employees about inconsistent scheduling, last-minute shift changes, and being denied breaks. Several mentioned Carl by name. None of them had been addressed. He opened his laptop, pulled up the corporate directory, and cross-referenced Carl's regional supervisor. The man's name was Bryce. He'd been with the company for 6 years, and Isaiah remembered him well. Smart, ambitious, but always looking for shortcuts. Isaiah closed the laptop and stared at the ceiling. This wasn't just one bad manager. It was a culture problem, one that had been allowed to spread under layers of distance and delegation. The next morning, Isaiah didn't come in as a trainee. He put on a clean button-down, left the disguise behind, and walked in through the front doors at noon, just as the line was winding through the lobby again. Carl was at the register, snapping at a customer over a coupon code. Isaiah waited until the order was done, then stepped into full view behind the counter. Carl turned, irritation already on his face. "You can't be back here during service," where he stopped mid-sentence. Isaiah met his eyes. "Carl, office, now." Silence fell across the front line. Milo dropped the spatula he was holding. Carl blinked slowly. "Sir, I didn't realize, I wasn't asking." Carl hesitated, then walked stiffly toward the back. Isaiah followed, closing the office door behind them. "You've got 10 minutes, Isaiah said, voice low, steady. "Start explaining." Carl stood behind his desk, shifting his weight. "If this is about labor, I've been following the targets sent by Bryce. We're ahead of projections this quarter." Isaiah didn't sit. "This is about how you treat people. Your team is burned out, morale is collapsing, and you're cutting corners that hurt customers. You've dismissed complaints, ignored the feedback platform, and retaliated against employees trying to do the right thing." "I've been getting results," Carl said quickly. "The store's profitable." "At what cost?" Isaiah's voice rose slightly. "You've created an environment where fear keeps people silent, where the best workers are exhausted and the new ones don't last a week. That's not leadership, it's control." Carl opened his mouth, then closed it again. Isaiah pointed to the desk. "Leave your keys, you're done here." Carl's face went pale. "You're firing me." Isaiah didn't blink. "Effective immediately. Security will escort you out. I'll have someone collect your final paperwork." Carl hesitated for a moment longer, then slowly removed the keyring from his belt and placed it on the desk. When he left, Isaiah remained in the office for several minutes, staring at the wall. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. But the first crack had been made. Isaiah stepped out of the office and scanned the store. No one spoke. Milo stood frozen at the grill, halfway through flipping a patty. Nessa looked like she was trying to blend into the wall near the drink station. Customers had gone quiet too, sensing something had shifted. Isaiah didn't raise his voice. "Everyone, quick meeting in the back, 5 minutes." Milo was the first to move, setting his spatula down and wiping his hands. The others followed, uncertain but curious. Isaiah held the door to the prep area open and waited until the last person stepped through before closing it behind them. They gathered in the narrow hallway between the walk-in and the dry storage. Most kept their eyes low. Nessa fidgeted with her sleeve. A dishwasher named Lewis leaned against a cart, arms crossed but attentive. Isaiah looked at each of them. "I'm Isaiah Owen. I started this company in a food truck behind a gas station. Some of you probably didn't know that. That's on me." He paused, letting that land. "I came here undercover. Not to trap anyone. I wanted to see what this place had become because I stopped recognizing the numbers on my reports. I saw people doing their best with too little help, no support, and no respect." Milo shifted. "So what happens now?" Isaiah nodded. "Carl's gone. Starting today, this store reports directly to me until I assign a new manager. But I'm not here to play hero. I need to know what's broken and what needs fixing first." Lewis didn't hesitate. "Schedules. He'd post them the night before a new week. I've missed appointments, school stuff for my kid, everything." Nessa spoke up next. He used to change my shifts without telling me. I'd show up and be off the schedule, said it was training flexibility. Isaiah crossed his arms. Has anyone here received a performance review in the past 6 months? No one answered. That's changing. We'll start with one-on-ones this week. You'll get feedback, goals, and a path forward. And if something's not working, I want to hear it. A voice came from the back. Alina, a prep cook who'd been silent until now. What about Tegan? Isaiah turned toward her. She's off today, right? Alina nodded. She's the only one who stayed longer than a year. Carl made her life miserable. She covered gaps, stayed late, trained new people, even covered his register when he walked off. I'll talk to her personally, Isaiah said. She deserves more than just an apology. Milo raised a hand slightly. What about the district manager, Bryce? He was always backing Carl. Every time someone called the hotline, Carl told us it went straight to him. Isaiah's jaw tightened. That ends now. Bryce is being investigated internally. If he protected behavior like this, he won't be here much longer either. No one asked another question. But a few exchanged glances, cautious hope flickering in their eyes. Isaiah nodded once. All right, we're short today, so I'll stay on the line, not as a CEO, just a guy who knows how to make a sandwich. Let's get back out there. They returned to the front together. The difference was subtle but real. Milo spoke a little louder. Nessa stopped glancing at the door every few seconds. Louis cracked a quiet joke while restocking lids. Isaiah took a register, pulling on gloves and stepping into the rhythm. He didn't try to take over. When questions came up, he asked before answering. When customers got testy, he offered calm explanations instead of default apologies. Slowly, the tension began to ease. Around 2, Tegan entered through the side door. She'd changed out of uniform, clearly not expecting to be working. Her eyes landed on Isaiah at the register, then shifted to Milo, who gave her a wide-eyed look and mouthed something she didn't catch. She stepped cautiously behind the counter. I got a message from Alina. Said something happened. Isaiah met her gaze. Got a minute? They stepped outside into the alley behind the store. The air was warm, the hum of traffic steady in the distance. I owe you an apology, he began. I saw what you went through. I should have seen it sooner. You held this place together while being undermined at every turn. She didn't respond at first. Then, why now? Because I stopped listening to the people who mattered. I let middle layers shield me from reality. That ends here. She studied him. You're not just saying this because you saw me cry, are you? No, he said. I'm saying it because you didn't quit when most people would have, because you took care of customers when no one was watching, and because you deserve more than survival. She looked away briefly, then back. So what happens next? You're being promoted, Isaiah said. Assistant manager, effective immediately, but only if you want it. I'll support you and you'll have final say on the next manager we hire. She laughed once short, surprised. You sure about that? I'm sure you've earned it. She looked at the ground, then nodded slowly. I'll take it. They returned inside and Isaiah called the team to the front again. Tegan's stepping up, he said. She's been the backbone of this store for too long without the title or pay. That changes today. Milo clapped. Alina smiled. Even Nessa looked relieved. Isaiah continued, I'm also bringing in a regional support team to help with hiring. We're not going to run short anymore, and no more surprise schedule changes. You'll get your next month's schedule by Friday every month going forward. Louis raised a hand. What about pay? We've been at the same rate since before Carl got here. Isaiah nodded. You'll each get a pay evaluation this week. We'll adjust based on tenure, performance, and responsibility. No more flat rates. The room held quiet for a few seconds. Then Milo said, You're staying with us again tomorrow, Isaiah nodded, and the next day until we're stable. Tegan stepped forward. Can I make one request? Anything, Isaiah said. Can we take down that Employee of the Month board? Carl only used it to punish people. Isaiah looked at the faded board, still displaying Carl's own name from 3 months back. Yeah, he said. Tear it down. She pulled it off the wall herself, tossed it in the back. Later that night, Isaiah sat at the empty corner table in the dining room, watching as the last few tables were wiped and chairs were stacked. The store didn't look different, but it felt different, not fixed, not yet, but finally turning. The next morning, Isaiah arrived just before opening again, dressed in the same button-down from the day prior. Tegan was already inside, unlocking the prep fridge with a key she now carried on a lanyard. She looked up, gave a short nod, and went back to checking inventory. The air between them was different, less uncertain, more grounded. Isaiah stepped behind the counter and found Nessa wiping down the touchscreen terminals. She didn't flinch when she saw him this time. "You got in early," he said. She shrugged. "Didn't want to feel rushed." "Yesterday felt better." Isaiah nodded once. "We're working on that. I asked a couple team members from another store to come by this afternoon and help with the dinner rush. Should ease the pressure." Tegan's voice came from the back. "We're short on gloves again." "We've been stretching the last box." "I'll put in a standing order," Isaiah said. "No more rationing basic supplies." He stepped into the office. The desk was cleared, Carl's personal clutter already boxed and removed. A clipboard with the week's shift assignments sat neatly in the center. Tegan had organized it by availability and role depth, not just seniority. She'd also color-coded coverage gaps. It was smart, efficient. She stepped in behind him. "I reshuffled the weekend shifts. Lewis asked for Sunday off, his daughter's performing at a school thing. I gave him the early Saturday slot instead." Isaiah looked up. "He get coverage." Milo offered to stay an extra hour, said it was no big deal. Isaiah leaned against the filing cabinet. "How'd you convince them to start covering for each other?" "I didn't," she said. "I just stopped changing shifts after posting them. Seems like that did the trick." He smiled faintly. "You want to keep this office long-term?" "I didn't ask for it," she said. "But yeah. I think I can make it work." By noon, the regulars had returned: construction crews, delivery drivers, a couple of nurses in scrubs. The pace was steady but not overwhelming. Milo handled grill with practiced ease while Nessa took the register on her own, checking each customer's order with quiet focus. Isaiah kept to the sidelines, observing. He wasn't there to run the shift anymore, he was there to see who was rising and who wasn't. Around 2, two employees from a nearby store, Sasha and Jordan, arrived to help with the evening flow. Jordan plugged into the back line without needing direction. Sasha took over prep, chatting briefly with Alina in Spanish before diving into slicing tomatoes. Isaiah walked out to the lobby and sat at a corner table, watching the operation from a customer's view. It was functional. Still rough in spots, still short-staffed, but it wasn't hostile anymore. It wasn't fearful. At 3, a slim man in khakis and a corporate windbreaker walked through the door. He scanned the room with narrowed eyes and made a beeline for the counter. Tegan noticed first, her jaw set. Isaiah stood. Bryce. Bryce stopped short. "Isaiah. I wasn't expecting to see you here." Isaiah didn't offer a handshake. "I asked for your response to the internal complaints last week. Never got it." "I've been reviewing them," Bryce said, voice level. "I was planning to escalate the most serious ones directly to HR." Isaiah cut him off. "You had over a dozen anonymous complaints from this location alone in the last 90 days. Not one was escalated until I came here myself." Bryce's face tightened slightly. "They lacked specifics, names, documentation. I couldn't act on hearsay. They contained time stamps, dates. Repeated mentions of the same manager. You ignored them because it was easier not to get involved." "I followed protocol," he said. "Carl hit all his performance metrics. Labor stayed under target. Customer retention was flat, not declining. From my position, the store was stable." Isaiah stepped closer. "You have a responsibility to measure more than spreadsheets." Bryce looked past him toward the kitchen. "I see you've made some changes. Just be careful not to set a precedent that undermines chain of command." Isaiah's voice stayed calm. "You're done here. I've already submitted a formal notice to HR and compliance. You failed to investigate credible reports of employee mistreatment. That's not a warning." That's termination. Bryce's mouth opened, closed, then opened again. This isn't how we handle executive decisions. I have tenure, you had tenure, Isaiah said. He turned and gestured to a regional HR rep who had entered quietly through the side door. She stepped forward, clipboard in hand. Bryce, I'll walk you through your exit paperwork, she said, voice neutral. Please come with me. Bryce hesitated for just a second, then followed her through the same door Carl had used just 2 days before. When it clicked shut, Isaiah turned to find Tegan standing near the register watching. Didn't think you'd actually fire him, she said. You were wrong once this week, he replied. Don't make it a habit. She shook her head, but this time there was the faintest trace of relief in her eyes. By 5, the dinner crowd began arriving. Families, office workers, even a local school group. The line bent but never broke. Sasha stepped up to help expedite. Jordan took over the fryer. Milo gave quick coaching to Nessa without stepping on her role. Isaiah stayed in the background, wiping tables. He didn't need to give orders. And that was the point. Later, after the rush, the team gathered in the back once more. Not because they were called, but because they'd started doing that at the end of shifts, checking in, syncing for tomorrow. Isaiah stood near the walk-in door. I won't be here tomorrow, he said, and that's a good thing. Milo raised an eyebrow. You sure? I came to see what was broken, I saw it, and I saw who was holding the place together. He looked at Nessa. You've improved faster than any trainee I've seen in a long time. She looked down, a quiet smile forming. Alina, Isaiah continued, you've kept food cost waste under control with 0 tools to manage stock. That changes this week. You'll get full ordering rights and a kitchen lead bonus. She gave a small nod, eyes steady. Isaiah turned to Tegan. You're already doing the job, now you'll have resources to do it right. I'm assigning you a temporary assistant, someone experienced from another store to help with hiring and stabilization. She folded her arms. I don't want someone who thinks they're rescuing us. You'll pick them, he said. I'll give you a list. You decide who fits. She nodded once. He looked around the room. This store isn't perfect, but it's honest now, and that matters more than numbers. As he turned to leave, Lewis spoke up from the back. You gonna do this at the other stores too? Isaiah paused. I already started. He left through the front, walking past the now quiet lobby. The lights hummed low overhead. The air smelled faintly of baked bread and fryer oil. Outside, the sun had dipped below the buildings, casting long shadows across the sidewalk. Isaiah didn't get into a car, he walked. Slowly, not because he was avoiding anything, but because for the first time in months he wasn't carrying the weight alone. Change didn't happen in a day, but it had started. And this time it was real.